So, when we think about spiritual growth, or maybe just self-improvement generally, what usually springs to mind, often it's those, deep, quiet states. Meditation.
Right. Maybe retreating from the world to find some inner peace. Serene settings, mental stillness, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. But what if one of the really foundational Buddhist texts tells us that's not really what true, let's say, effacement is primarily about?
It's a genuinely surprising idea, isn't it? Almost counterintuitive. So today, yeah, we're doing a deep dive into the Sallekhasuttaṃ. It's often called the Discourse on Effacement.
Okay. And where does this text come from?
It's from the Majjhima Nikaya, which is the collection of the Buddha's middle-length discourses. And it offers, well, a really different and honestly incredibly practical take on how we actually purify ourselves.
That definitely sets the stage. So the heart of this whole discussion kicks off with a very direct question. It's from a monk, Maha Cunda, asking the Buddha something like, what's the fundamental way to get rid of these really ingrained wrong views, about ourselves, about the world?
Yeah, it's a big question, one I think a lot of us grapple with, right? How do you root out those core assumptions that just, well, color everything?
Absolutely. So what was the Buddha's first piece of advice there? How did he suggest tackling those deep views?
Well, his initial answer to Maha Cunda is really key to understanding everything else that follows. He basically says, for those deep-seated wrong views, whether they're about your idea of self or how the world works, the way to abandon them is to really see them clearly. See where they come from, where they take root, how they spread.
Ah, okay. So it's about insight.
Exactly. Seeing with what the text calls right wisdom, that this is not mine, I am not this is not myself. It's that profound insight into, impermanence and non-self.
So less about just intellectual agreement and more a fundamental re-seeing of reality.
Precisely.
That really does set us up for what comes next then. Because our mission today really is to unpack not just the Buddha's slightly surprising follow-up, but to get clear on what this effacement actually means. Sallekha in the original Pali. Think of it like actively stripping away or purifying yourself. But as you said, it's probably not what most people would guess. So we'll dig into what it is, and maybe just as importantly, what it isn't, and why that difference matters for us today.
Absolutely. And what's so illuminating is that the Buddha immediately clarifies what sallekha is not. Maha Cunda, like, many people on a spiritual path, might have thought that reaching those advanced meditative states, like the four jhanas.
Right, those states of deep concentration, bliss, stillness.
Exactly, those profound states. He might have thought that was effacement.
Yeah, the kind of peak experiences we often aim for in deep practice, living somewhere quiet, feeling intense peace. It's a common goal.
It is. But the Buddha says quite explicitly that while those jhanas are pleasant abidings in this present life, or peaceful abidings, they are not called sallekha in what he calls the noble discipline.
Okay, so pleasant, valuable even, but not the core practice of effacement itself.
Correct. And he makes the same point about the next level up, the four immaterial attainments. These are even more subtle, formless states.
Like contemplating infinite space or pure consciousness.
Yes, really profound, deeply peaceful states. But again, the Buddha says, nope, these are not the essence of sallekha.
Wow. That's really striking. It kind of challenges many common ideas about what the main spiritual work involves, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
So if sallekha isn't primarily about reaching these incredibly deep, withdrawn meditative states, what is it then? This is where it gets really interesting and maybe more active.
Yes, it's a definite shift. It moves from that idea of internal withdrawal to something much more active and relational, engaged. You could almost think of it like building a kind of spiritual immune system.
Okay, how so?
By actively choosing to cultivate the opposite of the unwholesome actions or views you see around you, or even within yourself, instead of just watching them from a distance.
Ah, so it's less about escaping the world.
Right. And more about engaging with it, but with a kind of unwavering ethical integrity. The phrase the Buddha keeps using is key. Others will be X. We resolvedly will be not X. This is effacement to be practiced.
Others will be X, we will be not X. That's very clear. So it's a conscious choice, like moment by moment, to embody wholesome qualities no matter what others are doing.
Precisely. And the text gives this incredibly comprehensive list of what that looks like. It goes way beyond just, not hitting someone.
Right. It's not just basic physical actions.
Exactly. It starts there. Sure, not harming living beings, not taking what's not given, but it quickly moves into the purity of our speech. So avoiding lies, avoiding divisive talk, harsh words, idle chatter.
And it doesn't even stop with words, does it?
No, it goes right into our minds, our thoughts, our intentions. Cultivating non-greed instead of being covetous.
Yeah.
Cultivating goodwill instead of ill will.
And then it seems to map onto the entire Noble Eightfold Path. It basically says, if others have the wrong view, we cultivate right view.
Yes, all the way through. Right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration.
And it even extends beyond that to right knowledge and right liberation itself.
Indeed. It's this holistic commitment. It touches every part of life. And beyond the Eightfold Path elements, the Buddha adds things like being free from mental sluggishness and dullness, sloth, and torpor.
Yeah, that heavy feeling.
Right. And being non-agitated, free from doubt, not being angry or resentful or envious. Even talks about the importance of good friends, good companionship. It's all about actively generating and upholding these positive qualities.
It's fascinating how much weight the Buddha puts on the intention, just the thought itself. He says something like, even the arising of a thought towards wholesome states is very beneficial, let alone actually doing it.
Yes.
So why is just that initial mental commitment, that intention, considered so powerful, even before you act?
That's a really critical point in the text. It underscores that the inner work, the purification within, is primary. And if you connect this to the bigger picture the Sutta paints, why is this comparative practice this, others will be X, we won't, so important? The text gives a few strong reasons. First, it's presented as a kind of alternative path. Or maybe a smooth path is a better translation, a way to bypass unskillful habits.
Like taking the paved road instead of the bumpy track.
Exactly, like choosing the express lane while others might be stuck navigating a difficult dirt road. It's efficient, it's skillful.
I like that. It's not just about avoiding the bad stuff, but actively choosing the skillful way.
Yeah.
And it implies moving upward, right? Not just sideways.
Precisely. The Buddha explicitly says that unwholesome qualities lead downward to lower states, whereas these wholesome qualities, practiced as sallekha, lead upward to higher states.
So it's a clear path for development, a trajectory.
Definitely. And maybe the most crucial point, particularly for those interested in helping others, is that the Sallekhasuttaṃ makes it crystal clear. Self-purification comes first. The Buddha uses this really potent image. He says, it's not possible for someone who is himself stuck in the mud to pull another person out.
Right. You can't rescue someone if you're drowning yourself.
Exactly. But, he continues, it is possible for one who is not mired in the mud to help.
That's such a powerful point. The whole put your own oxygen mask on first idea, but maybe even deeper. It emphasizes self-mastery as the foundation. You can only really guide others effectively once you've walked the path or at least gotten yourself onto solid ground.
Yes, precisely. It's about becoming tamed, disciplined, and liberated yourself before you can effectively try to help tame, discipline, and liberate others. And ultimately, all these wholesome qualities that constitute sallekha from the basics like non-harming all the way up to right liberation, they are presented as leading directly towards the final goal, complete liberation, nirvana.
Okay, so let's try to synthesize this a bit. What this ancient text, the Sallekhasuttaṃ, is really showing us is that true effacement, true sallekha, it's not mainly about retreating into some blissful meditative bubble.
No, not primarily.
It's much more about a deliberate, active, almost comparative practice of purifying yourself right here in relation to the world. It's about choosing again and again to cultivate specific good qualities in thought, word, and deed, and letting go of the unwholesome ones even, or maybe especially, when people around you aren't doing the same.
That sums it up really well. And this ancient wisdom, it offers such a clear, actionable path for growth. It's that smooth path we talked about, a way to bypass those ingrained negative habits, to move towards higher states, and ultimately it points the way towards complete freedom.
It really reframes the spiritual journey, doesn't it? It makes it less of a purely internal thing and more of a dynamic, engaged process that directly impacts how you interact with everything and everyone. So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's maybe something to think about. Given how much power this text gives to just generating the intention to practice these qualities, and how much it stresses cleaning up your own act before trying to change the world, how much untapped potential might there be in your own daily commitment to consciously cultivating even one positive quality, like kindness or honesty or non-anger, regardless of what anyone else is doing? What kind of immediate shifts could just that perspective bring to your life starting today?